Okay, here we go. In the beginning, before the skies above or the earth below existed, Father Apsu, fresh water, and Mother Tiamat, salt water, gave birth to many children, all of them gods. Didn't expect it to go that way, did you? But Apsu grew tired of all the noise these young gods made and planned to kill them. But Ea, the god of magic and wisdom, learned of the plan, gave Apsu a sleeping potion and killed him. Then Ea and his lover had a son named Marduk. Marduk had 4 eyes to perceive everything, 4 enormous ears, and when he spoke, fire blazed from his mouth. His father created the 4 winds and put them in Marduk's hands. Marduk was the majesty of the gods. But Mother Tiamat, the goddess of salt water, was enraged over the killing of her husband and gathered an army to take revenge. She made Kingu, one of her sons, her new lover, and also the general of her army, and gave him the tablet of destinies upon which the future was written, so he could set laws and decree what will happen in the future. And she created ferocious monsters and dragons for him. The gods, in rebellion against Tiamat, were terrified. But Marduk agreed to fight Tiamat so long as he was rewarded. Quickly, the gods accepted and built a princely shrine for him, the city of Babylon, and gave him reign over the whole universe. Meanwhile, Tiamat, in the form of a sea serpent, was raging out of control. When Marduk approached, she tried to cast a spell, but Marduk unleashed 7 whirlwinds against her. And she opened her mouth to swallow one, but could not. And as the wind swirled inside her, her belly exploded and she died. And Marduk trampled on her body and smashed her skull with his mace. Then he split her in half. One half he put up to form the sky. The other half he laid down as the earth. And the tears from her eyes were the source of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And her severed tail, cast away, became the Milky Way. Marduk commanded that the gods dig canals around the rivers to water the land of Babylon, but they grew tired of this work. So Marduk performed a miracle. He killed Kingu, the general of Tiamat's defeated army, and from Kingu's blood he created man and imposed on man the work of digging the canals and working the land so the gods could live in leisure. This is the epic of creation, or the Enuma Elish. If you lived in the lands of Mesopotamia around the time of Moses, around the time that Moses was leading Israel towards Canaan, this is how your existence was explained. This, you were told, was how the earth and mankind began. And every nation in the area, from Egypt to Canaan to Iran or Persia, had a creation story sort of like that, all involving multiple gods in conflict. So let's think about what the effect of that belief system would be. What would your relationship be with your gods? If that's how you viewed your gods, if that's how you understood that they worked, what would your relationship with your gods be? How would you worship them? Remember, we're scattered out here, so please speak up. But how would that form you as a person, as a religion? What were those gods like?
I'd have a lot of fear.
Fear?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they seem randomly to execute their will as they please, without any mercy or grace.
They're random, they're violent, they're selfish. What else?
It seems like the gods are very similar to humans, have a lot of human characteristics. And in Judaism and Christianity, it's the exact opposite.
Yes. Yes. If we were going to create gods, we'd probably make them in our image, would we not? And these do sound like, this sounds like the worst sort of soap opera. That's what your gods are like. That's who you're worshiping. That's who got all the power. How else would that form you? Larry?
Even though they were powerful, they were limited.
They were limited how?
They only had power over certain things.
Okay. All right. So they had their little category. They had their little area. They had their certain responsibilities. Okay.
You definitely would want to keep your head down and stay out of their way. You would not want to be in any kind of relationship with them, and your
Excellent. If that's what gods are like, the best you can hope for is they don't notice you. Let's appease them. Give them what they want, and then let's just keep our head down and hope that they don't notice us, and hope that we're not in their sights. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
You would lean towards the ones that would be in your favor, for example, like ones that had to do with the land or, control over the earth or whatever, would be the ones, if you were working the earth, those would be the ones that you would want to appease maybe,
Yeah.
versus if somebody was over the water.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything with working the water.
Yeah. So if you're a farmer, you want the gods over the earth, over fertility, over growing things, whoever controlled the rain, you would want to be on their good side. But part of the problem is, you may be, but there's other gods who may not like your God. They may be conflicting with each other. And so even though you may be appeasing the particular God that is serving you, that doesn't mean that things will still go well, because the gods are at war up there. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say, is if the gods are in conflict, then it's okay for us to be in conflict too.
Okay.
And like we try to model ourselves after our God, which is perfect. And if there is no perfect model, then anything goes, basically.
That's where we're headed. John, do you have something to say?
I'm just going to echo that. There's no moral benchmark to be part of.
Okay.
So why wouldn't I just pursue my own interests? The gods don't care, and I'm no worse than they are. So I won't be judged for wanting what I want.
Okay. It's chaos. It's, the strong survive. It's, if that's how the gods are, what's the moral code? If that's how your gods are, then how does that form you as a people? And it has been described. If you look at what we do know about the Canaanite religions, where Moses was taking the Israelites, the way that they lived is exactly what you'd expect for people who thought that was what their gods were like. Their lives reflected their gods' ways. And so we have all of it. I mean, I don't know if you heard in there, but there was incest among those gods. There was incest among that culture. Violence, betrayal. What's the moral code? What's the moral code for guiding us if that's how the gods themselves operate? My other question is, what would your relationship be with earth, with everything in the physical world? How did they view things in the physical world? The ocean, the stars, the sun, the moon. What I'm getting to there is, those were gods, right? So you're worshiping the moon. The Egyptians are worshiping Ra, the sun god. The ocean is this goddess of salt water, Tiamat, and boy, she's not happy a lot. I mean, that woman, man. And so that's how they viewed everything around them. Was they were the embodiments, or they, in some way, that was a god. And so that belief, that story, just their creation story, infused everything about their morality and their lifestyles and their choices and their priorities. That was typical. That's how everyone around the Israelites were believing and behaving. But there's one people who told a very different story. Their story, in the Hebrew, the title of that book is Bereshith, or beginning. The Greek title, which means genealogy or origin or birth, is where we get the name Genesis. Now, if you open your book in your Bible to Genesis, the first book of the Bible, no one's credited as the author of Genesis in the book itself. Traditionally, Genesis and the entire Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the Pentateuch, the 5 books or the 5 containers, are credited to Moses. It's accepted that Moses wrote those, and he's given some direct credit for some passages within the Pentateuch, such as here where it says, Deuteronomy 31, Moses wrote down this law and gave it to the Levitical priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord and to all the elders of Israel. Now, Moses could not have written all of the Pentateuch. He could not have written all 5 of those books in their entirety, partly because he dies before Deuteronomy ends. And so obviously he could not have written all of that. And there's also some things within those 5 books that speak about what happened after the death of Moses in the past tense, as if those things happened a while after the death of Moses, such as the conquest of Canaan. Here's just an example of that. Deuteronomy 2:12, Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. They destroyed the Horites from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did in the land the Lord gave them as their possession. Well, that's talking about the conquest, which doesn't happen until the book of Joshua. And so, obviously, this was written sometime, maybe quite a while after Moses was dead and gone. So how the book that we have as Genesis came together is not known absolutely. What most scholars would make a good case for is Moses wrote it based on direct revelations from God, plus oral histories, historical documents that he had access to. And he may have used some other contributors as he assembled this as a general editor to bring it all together. And then after his death, the books received some additional editorial updates to make them more clear for later readers. I've read some things that, somewhere between the time of David and the exile, we have in final form what we have as the Pentateuch. So that means that Moses wrote Genesis during the 40 years that he was leading Israel. There's 2 different theories about the dates on that. There is one theory that says it happened in the 1500s BC. There's a second theory that says it happened sometime in the 1300s BC, and there's good evidence for both of those. That has not been definitively decided. So sometime in that period, as the people are transitioning from slavery in Egypt to the nation that they're about to enter in the promised land. And so that's when Moses is writing this. That's when he's giving the people of Israel, here's your creation story. Here's where you came from. Here's what your God is like. So think about where they've been. They've been in slavery in Egypt. They've been in Egypt for 400 years, in slavery for we're not sure how long of that time. Think about the religion of Egypt from what you know. And then think about where they're going, Canaan. They're going there to conquer several pagan nations more powerful than they are. That is the context in which he is writing Genesis. His first readers, that's his first readers. Now, he's not writing a science textbook. And he's not focused, he's focused instead on clarifying the nature of God. He's clarifying for them, here's how the one true living God, your God, is different from all these others that everyone else around you is worshiping and fearing. And so because that's his purpose, that's why so many of the questions that we bring to Genesis are not answered by Genesis. He's not trying to answer those questions. How old is the earth? What about the dinosaurs? Did Adam and Eve have belly buttons? The really important questions that we bring, where did Canaan's wife or did Cain's wife come from? Genesis was not written to answer those questions. It was written as God was forming the nation of Israel to be an example to the rest of the world of how a holy God wants to relate to mankind and how man was to live in a way that glorified God. It was revealing God to his chosen people. It was revealing God's plan for all of mankind. That's the purpose of this book initially. So let's look at just a few verses from the Genesis creation account to consider if this is the true story of creation, if this is what the true God is like, how does that differ? How does that contrast with the pagan cultures all around Israel? So I'm just going to pull out just a few verses, okay? Just a few verses from the first couple chapters of Genesis. And I'm just going to ask you, what does that tell you? What's that reveal to you? What's that change for you? And think about this especially through the lens of, if you are those Israelite people surrounded by pagan nations, how this would change things for you. So the first one, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. How's that different from pagan myths? How's it superior to those myths, if it is? What are some worldview implications of just that one sentence? And man, I promise you, I could preach for 2 months on that one sentence. So there's a lot in there. What's this change? How's this different? Give me some ways that this would totally reset a worldview. There's only one. There's one God. It's not a polytheistic situation. We don't have a bunch of gods that are fighting each other. Okay? There's only one. What else?
Well, written like that, it's like it's planned, there's a purpose, there's a focus, versus the others where it was happenstance because of some disagreement and war and things like that.
Okay. All right. There's a design. There's an intentionality to this. Okay. And he's in control from the very start of it all. Okay. Big difference. Yeah.
It's assumed that God's already there.
Yes. Yes. So in the beginning, here's the beginning. Well, God is already before the beginning. So we have an eternal God who was there before the beginning. So we don't have this, well, where was the mom and dad of the gods who were fighting when this whole thing started? He was eternal. He was there before the beginning. Okay. What else? John.
This is really cool to think about. This is the first command of the Ten Commandments.
This is the first command of the Ten Commandments. How so?
You will have no other gods before me.
Okay.
I mean, if you take the pagan narrative and then you read this, you go, that's why. I mean, this is the beginning, and it's like the Ten Commandments is saying it all over again. This is the beginning.
Okay. Okay. All right. Larry.
As you preached last week, that's how that reads in English, but in the Hebrew, in the beginning, God's created. So there is a plurality, but yet there's that single verb, so they're plural and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Plural, yeah.
You'd spend at least a week on that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Plural and singular. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
So we were talking about some of these other pagan peoples and whatnot, from the Egyptians to the Canaanites or whatever. They all worship like the moon or the sun
Uh-huh.
or whatever. This is stating that, yeah, you're worshiping all of this. Yeah, this God created all of those actual physical beings.
We're going to talk more about that, but yeah, exactly. So those things, they're not gods. They're just created objects. Yeah, exactly. Now that changes the whole cosmology. Yeah. Jacob.
Didn't cost him anything. You didn't have to gut his mother and strew her intestines.
Yes. He spoke it into, we'll find out, he spoke it into existence. And I left out the whole gutting your mother and all that. I left out, and it just kind of speaks to, what their creation mythology forms within those people. But if you wanted to go back, I mean, you can find it in different places. If you wanted to go back and actually read that whole Mesopotamian creation account, the Enuma Elish, I left out a lot of details that just should not be spoken in church. These were brutal people. These were really coarse, base people. These were very sexualized people. And that kind of brings up another thing about this. Unlike all those other gods, this God is asexual. He does not have to mate with someone to create. So there's no sexuality in this. You see a lot of the Canaanite cultures, they are, they'll have temple prostitutes, and they are having sex to stimulate or to excite the gods to have sex, because that's what produces rain or whatever. The Hebrew God is not only one God, he's asexual. And so all of that is taken out of the worship and the religion. I saw something, was it Ray?
Yeah, and you can see the relationship that Moses has with God now, because when Moses encounters God at the burning bush, he said, who do I say is sending me? And obviously our English translations don't do a good job of I am it. That's all you need to know. I'm not the God of the sun or the God of the moon or the God of the ocean. And when he finally pins the creation story, he's like, God, that's it. There was nothing else.
Yep. So there is one living God who is supreme over all. He's also independent of all. He exists before the beginning, and he is independent of us. He doesn't need us. He didn't create us because he needed us to do the hard work because he was lazy, and he does not need us. He's completely independent of us. He exists just fine without us. Also, as I said, because there's just one God, we don't have to fear all these other gods. We're dealing with one God, and he's supreme over all things. It totally changes. That one sentence completely resets the worldview compared to all these other religions around them. Here's another example. And God said, this is within the days of creation, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, and days and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. And God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. How is this different? What does this change? And that's what PJ was telling us. So what it's saying is, the sun and moon are created objects. They're not gods. You don't worship them. They're just created objects, and they have a purpose. The purpose is to give light in the day or in the night, and it's to mark seasons. Those aren't living beings. Those aren't things to. So again, it totally changes the cosmology. Also, those things up in the sky, they don't determine your destiny. All the astrology, all that stuff, they have nothing to do with that. There's a living God that you're relating to. You don't worry about how the stars are arranged at a certain time. They're not the right. They're not grandma's tail thrown up in the air. So yes, totally.
It kind of reminds me of that verse, the Sabbath was created for you, not you for the Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
That's what God is doing here. He's giving us something this is for us. This is a good creation that he made for us. So it's not so we can worship it. It's that it is set to benefit us.
Yeah, good.
I'm a little bit struck by the fact that it's not random. The stars. So this is the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time measurement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very purposeful. So that time could be observed. Prior to that, there was no time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That really strikes me.
Yeah. Yes.
Something I find interesting about this is that he says that he created two sources of light. Well, we know the moon's not the source of light, but he didn't explain that to us.
Mm-hmm.
God allows for our wonder and our research and our amazement and science, and look at all the things that we are still discovering.
Mm-hmm.
God knew all of those secrets in the beginning, but he didn't tell us. He's allowing, even here, like, the moon's not a source of light, the sun is, but I'll let you figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
You'll figure that out someday.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you'll walk on the moon someday. And that's our God.
Yeah.
And he loves us enough to have created us and provided a way of redemption for us, but also a way for us to have this wonder and amazement, which increases our faith.
Yeah.
Like, we just found out that the moon isn't a source of light.
Yeah.
There was a time when man figured that out.
Yeah.
And when we figured that out, wow, it should have, and I'm sure for many it did. Wow, that increases your faith in the one who created it. Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Well said. Well said.
It's also, God brings order to everything. All of these these things. Separates light from darkness, the sky from the water, land from the sea. And he's bringing order to everything. And so creation is a result of order and not chaos, like some people said about something got thrown up in the sky and now that's the way or whatever. So just like he brings moral order to us also rather than chaos.
Good. Yes.
Even as a child, I was always curious about why it always said, and that was good. You know, now as an adult, you think, well, there was a purpose, it was a benefit, it was, a blessing, it was, you know, just like later on when it goes to talking about the creation of man, it was good, not like the Canaanite gods where, or Mesopotamian gods where, you know, they were just there as servants.
That's so important, and I'm so glad you said that. And you just captured what I'm just kind of sensing even in the room, and that is, you know, I started off with that Mesopotamian creation myth, and you think, wow, if that is my world, if that is all there is, if that's my hope, if that's what I have to live within. But then we start comparing that to the biblical version. We start comparing that to the one true living God. Don't you just, as you said, it is good. I would have to imagine if people were reading Genesis versus what they grew up with in their pagan culture, this is so much more appealing. It just, everything kind of lightens. I mean, there's a new horizon for you. There's a new future for you. There's a new meaning in life. There is order. It is good. I think that you start realizing it through those eyes and you see how much better that the biblical version is. Let me give you, along those lines, here's another example of that. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Now, how does that contrast, and what are the implications, what are the differences that makes versus the pagan creation myths? If we are made in the image of God, what is that, of that God, what does that change?
Not slaves.
We're not slaves. We're not just made because they're lazy or they need us to feed them. Okay. What else does it change?
It changes our purpose.
Their issue, where we've issued from the God. We didn't come from someplace else, that's our source. Who we are.
We came from this God who is good, who brings order, who truly is in control. That also, Ray, you said
It
something.
changes our purpose.
Okay, changes our
Like you
purpose.
said, we're not slaves. We are to be like God.
Mhm.
If we're made it like him, then we are to be like him.
And if we're to be like him, well, there is a morality. There is a moral code. There is a purpose. Yeah.
I think it gives everyone intrinsic purpose, or not purpose, but intrinsic value.
Value.
Because in a world where people are really not treated very well, foreigners not treated well, women not treated well, it gives everybody value, intrinsic.
And it's equal value. Made in the image of God, male and female, both made in the image of God, of a God who is good. I'd much rather be made in that image than be made in the image of any of the gods that we just were hearing about. If we're made in the image of that God, as you say, that immediately gives everyone intrinsic value, equally intrinsic value. It also says we're all accountable to that God. If we're made in his image, we are accountable to him. One more. And we're going to I will say, just as we kind of adjust to this new rhythm, this new schedule, there'll be, probably some rough spots as we're adjusting here. So I'm going to probably let us out a little early initially at least the first couple classes until we kind of get into our flow. Because worship starts at 10:50. Just the time, people have time to come in, so you have time to exit, all that. We'll probably end a little bit early this morning, and then we'll kind of see how it goes from there. But here's just one more. Yeah.
One last thing.
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
I remember as a kid growing up, I wonder what God looks like. He must be this big light, or this big, maybe it's this big blue light or something, or he must be huge and giant, because we sing the song, "My God is so big," as kids. But the older I've gotten, I've realized, like when Moses wanted to see God. He said, "You can't see my face, it'll kill you." So he said, "I'll pass in front. You can see the back of me, and I'll hide you in the cleft of the rock with my hand to protect you." But Moses was changed so much physically through his life from his encounters with God that you can see God's glory. But isn't it interesting that God has a back? And he has a back. And also, he says here, let us make man in our image. What does that mean? Like, have a personality like us? I have a feeling that when we get to heaven, if we're expecting a big blue light or something, I think we might be shocked at how much we are truly made in God's image. But I just had this, and I may be wrong, I had this idea that we're going to be like, wow, we look like him. We really do look like him. And I know he's spiritual, he's not a physical body, but when Jesus was resurrected and had his glorified body before he went to heaven, he looked different. And so I just think it's about being one of those things that's revealed to us, and wow. And how relatable is that God? More than this huge light or whatever. How much more relatable that he loves us because we're like him. I have a son, I have a daughter. They look like me. How much more relatable and is that love when you truly realize, wow, we are his children and we look like him.
Yeah. And that gets back to, and that's another 10 Commandment connection there. We're told, God says, "Do not make anything in my image." Well, we already have image bearers. We're the image bearers. So yeah. Okay, one more, and then we'll close out here. Very next verse, after he creates mankind in his image. So God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Then God said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They'll be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth and to all the birds in the sky and all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food." And it was so. And God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Final question, how does that influence your relation, how you relate to the earth, the animals, the plants, your existence on this planet? What does that teach you about your place in the world, mankind's place in the world, and about the world itself? Okay, one, male and female, we are co-rulers over this earth.
How could it took it with God?
With God.
God gave this, he said, "I want you all to do this."
He delegated that authority to us as his image bearers to bear his image on the earth, the good earth that he created. Okay. 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 All right.
Does it say to worship any of that?
There you go.
You're created, it was created for us.
Yep.
We don't worship it.
Right. So we are superior to the animals. We don't worship the animals. We don't value an animal over a human. It's setting some order. There's some hierarchy there. But also, if we are made in God's good image, and all he made was good, then we have a responsibility to not abuse that good creation. Our task is to work it and care for it. And so we have a stewardship of this earth. That we're not worshiping it, but we take care of it. Any other thoughts?
You made a way for us for our lives to be sustained.
Yes. So he created a world where we could be fed, where we could thrive. What's that tell us about God?
He cares for us.
He cares. He's a good God. He's a good Father. He cares for us. I didn't hear that anywhere in the Mesopotamian story. What I heard was we were kind of afterthoughts because they didn't want to do the work. There's no promise of care. There's no promise of, hey, we're going to sustain you. None of that. This is a God I want to relate to. This is a God that I want to get closer to and know more. Those other gods, like was said over here, you just want to keep your head down and hope that they don't notice you. But this is a God who we can have a relationship with. And what we're told is he wants a relationship with us. Okay, I'm going to stop there just to give us time for the transition until we kind of figure this whole schedule out. So we're going to be in Genesis for pretty much most of the rest of this year. I'm going to get it kicked off, and then we're going to have some other speakers come in and take a rotation of teaching on this. But we're going to work through Genesis from Genesis 1. I'm going to take us up through Abraham and Isaac, because that's a precursor to Christ. I think that's a good, that doesn't cover all of the book. There's a lot, 50 chapters is a lot to cover. But it does give us, I think, a good foundation for understanding the rest of Scripture. So that's where we're headed. So thanks for being here. You're welcome to stay and visit for a little bit, but remember we do have our second service at 10:50. It's 10:38 right now, and so some folks will probably be coming in, and so we just need to make sure that we are working on that transition time for that. So thank you so much, y'all. Hey. No, that's great. Well, give me your name. Cody Scott Franks.
I worship at Second Adams in Elk City.
Okay.
But my sister lives in Edmond. But I'm
Okay.
up here. But anyways, I love this format.
Oh, good.
Not everyone does this.
Yeah.
Smaller congregations do. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. This is great.
Yeah.
Getting everyone involved. And you have great participation. Sometimes,
We do.
Sometimes it's this. And
The auditorium class is dead. I know.
you gotta beg, like, can someone read a Bible verse and you're waiting for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have some good people.
Yeah, no, we do. We
You got
do.
a really good thing going.
Yeah, we do.
It's got to be great, too.
We do. Yeah, that's okay is a pretty good word. That's
I've known him most of my life.
really. Oh.